To the July 7th meeting of the LAFCo Commission. Banging my computer, that's the gavel. We'll get started. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Budge?
Here.
Desmond? Don't see Desmond. Frost?
Here.
Liebig?
Here.
Lowly? Don't see Lowly. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Actually, I saw Desmond entered, but I don't see him on the screen yet. It said he was entering.
I see his name. Commissioner Desmond, are you present?
He's on video, he just doesn't have audio.
Okay. Well, I will mark him as present because I show his name there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's see. Commissioner Frost, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Turn on your microphone.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag
to
of the United States of America
and to
the
the
republic
Republic
for which it stands,
stands
one nation
under God,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Member Budge, for the flag. Appreciate that. All right. This meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the Local Government Affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.net. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, July 9th at 1 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed on Metro Cable 14's YouTube channel.
Okay, next announcement. In compliance with directives of the county, state, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, this meeting is live streamed and closed to in-person public attendance. Temporary procedures are subject to change pursuant to guidelines related to social distancing and minimizing person-to-person contact. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, dial 916-875-2501. Again, the phone number to make a verbal comment is 916-875-2501, and leave a message with contact information to make a public comment during a live meeting. Registration opens with the agenda 72 hours prior to the meeting. Date callers will be contacted by phone and transferred to the meeting to make comment on a specific agenda item or off agenda item when the chairperson opens the public comment for the specific agenda item or off agenda item matter. You will be transferred into the meeting to make a verbal comment. And written comments are always accepted. Send your email comment to boardclerk@saccounty.net. Then your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. And we have one other announcement regarding the agenda, and that is there will be no closed session this evening. So we will go from item 5 to number 6, and we'll do 7 and 8, and questions and announcements at the end.
Right. Is there anyone who would like to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda? Do we have any?
I do not have anybody that is off agenda item matters, no.
All right. Well, will the clerk please read the first item?
Yes, the first item is the consent calendar, items 1 through 3.
I'll move the consent calendar as presented.
And I'll second.
I'm sorry, who did what?
Lindsay Liebig moved the item.
Okay, great. And who
You have
seconded?
This
Well, that
gay,
means
I
but-
think I seconded it.
Okay, Jones. All right, very good. Thank you. We have first and second. Do we have any
Roll call.
comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jones? I have you muted, Commissioner Jones. There we go.
Okay. I,
Commissioner Budge?
Yes.
Desmond, if you're able to speak? Commissioner
Saying aye.
Frost?
We'll take that as an aye.
Okay, Commissioner Frost and Commissioner Liebig.
Aye.
Great, thank
An aye
you.
for me too.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Little, thank you very much. So all in favor with Commissioner Desmond and Lowly absent.
No, Desmond's here.
Desmond's here.
I know, but I can't get an aye from him.
He gave us a thumbs up.
He had a visual thumbs
Did
up.
he? I don't see his video. Okay, thank you, everyone.
And this is almost like the clerk of the board's office. Sometimes you have to unjoin and then rejoin the meeting for your audio to reconnect.
Okay, Commissioner Frost and
All right, well, let's give him just a second to rejoin us.
Okay. Well, audio visual technical difficulties.
Well, soon this will be in our past, we hope.
Yes.
Will you go ahead, please, Clerk and Madam Clerk, and read the next item?
The next item is item 4, correction, final fiscal year 2021-22 budget. Mr. Lockhart?
Well, good evening, Chair.
Whoa.
Mr. Lockhart, can you try again?
it looked like he was trying to rejoin this meeting. And it probably depends what you click for your audio choice as you're entering.
By the way, Chair Little, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay, yes.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I think now we're waiting for Don Lockhart. Oh, there he is. Like he rejoined.
Don with us?
His microphone unmuted, but I believe he's going to have to rejoin the meeting. So maybe.
Is there a link maybe we can send Don Lockhart to assist in him getting back in?
I'll retry sending him the link.
Yeah, that might help if he's having trouble.
Perhaps he can just do the audio on his phone.
There he comes. Yeah, he did just call me. I'm seeing if I can assist.
Okay, good evening, Commissioners, Chair, and members of the
Okay.
Commission.
There we go.
Have I rejoined? I apologize. Just wanted to double check that the system's not working well. I can confirm that it's not working well. Item number 4 is strictly housekeeping. In preparing the next step for our budget process, which is the assessments and the certification by the county at finance, and then circulation for assessments to districts, we discovered simply typographical error on my part. And so this item before you this evening is simply to rescind the previous budget memo that was adopted and replace it with the current attached budget. The error was in the resolution, though none of the calculations or other product of the previous budget efforts need to be readdressed. This is simply a matter of rescinding and putting in place a valid resolution. So I welcome any questions you may have.
Any questions? All right.
No questions.
Do we need a motion on this, Don?
No, sir. Just a business item that if you can do a voice vote, I think we'll understand that that's been adopted.
I think it's the resolution to approve the new budget resolution. Isn't that right?
Good point. Yes, thank you.
So if it's a resolution for approval to take that action, maybe we recommend a motion for approval of that revised resolution.
I'll move to approve.
Second, Budge.
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll? You're muted.
Was the motion made by Desmond?
Yes, seconded by Budge.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Budge?
Yes.
Desmond?
Aye.
Ross?
Aye.
Liebig?
Aye.
And Little?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor. Next item is item number 5. Reconsideration for River Delta Fire District and Delta Fire District reorganization.
Oh, good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. The item before you tonight is essentially it's an implementation of statute. We're not discussing the merits of the proposal, which was before your Commission previously in May. It was approved in May, initiated by the 2 affected districts, River Delta Fire District and Delta Fire Protection District. That action by your Commission to approve the project occurred on May 5th. On May 17th, the board of the River Delta Fire District unilaterally took action to change the standing of their participation in a joint agreement between the 2 districts called the Mutual Threat Zone Agreement, also referred to as not a service area agreement. The merits of that agreement, the fact that it was in place, that's not the issue before the Commission this evening. And also the agreement is between parties, between the 2 districts. It's not subject to your Commission oversight. It's a private contract for public safety services in their respective service in the Delta. So as a result of the action on May 17th by Delta Fire Protection District, River Delta provided a letter within the 30-day reconsideration period requesting that the item be reconsidered by your Commission. Any action that your Commission takes, for the most part, dealing with reorganizations is subject to a protest proceeding and a 30-day reconsideration. Those are 2 separate processes that run parallel. In this case, because the project was initiated by both affected districts, there was no conducting authority. Conducting authority proceedings were waived because of the 100% consent of the affected districts, as well as no public concerns, no agency concerns were presented. So within that, there was, after your action, the 30-day period from May 5th began to toll. Within that period of time, if a party says, wait a minute, there's things that have happened as a result of your commission that your commission was not aware of the possibility of or the implications of that, the item should be brought back to your commission or by request of, in this case, River Delta, for you to consider whether or not this is new information only or was information that the commission was aware of, took consideration of, and rendered your decision. In this case, both districts adopted resolutions of initiation for this reorganization. The reorganization is a trading of parcels along Highway 12 in the Delta. Some parcels were detached from one district and annexed to the other, and vice versa. As a result of this action, I should mention that both resolutions that were adopted by the respective boards make mention of them both being parties to the mutual threat zone agreement. Based on the information available at the time of your commission that was provided to your staff, there was never any indication that there would be any implications to the mutual threat zone standing, the agreement standing, as a result of any decision of your commission. The resolution adopted by Delta Fire Protection District May 17th indicates that because the boundary concerns that were addressed through your reorganization removed the random parcels for both districts that had been north and south of Highway 12 and allowed Highway 12 to become the clear boundary for service participation. As a result of that, in the eyes of the Delta Fire Protection District, it became an agreement that they were no longer inclined to participate with, and they unilaterally, as was provided for in the agreement, canceled their participation. As a result of that, we do have the request for this hearing this evening from River Delta indicating that they were not aware of this implication. So the focus of the conversation this evening, the deliberations this evening, is this new information, the implications to service delivery, to the level of service available to the respective district constituents as well as the traveling public on Highway 12. Is this potentially adversely, does it have an impact, more so than anything else, does it have an impact on the service delivery, the cost of delivery, the public safety and benefit in the Delta for life safety issues? If that's new information, that being the cancellation of the mutual threat zone agreement that your commission was not aware of, in the eyes or in the recommendation of your executive officer, that warrants new information, that warrants a cancellation or rescinding of your previous approval, and that action will be final by your commission. Both districts are able to come back to the commission at some point in the future in the event that they can come together in agreement and request the same type of reorganization. But action this evening to acknowledge this new information would then necessitate that the previous decision is set aside and the boundaries remain as they were before your commission action. As a point of clarification, as your commission knows, any actions that you take are then subject to a curing period, as I mentioned, the conducting authority proceedings and the 30-day reconsideration. So the filing of the boundary change does not occur till those two processes are completed. With the submittal of the request for reconsideration, the tolling process is timed out. Your commission is, the clock is stopped, and at the direction of your commission, it would either recommence or the project would be denied. It's a little out of the ordinary. We haven't had one of these in a couple of years, and I appreciate that it's something that we're not dealing with frequently. With that, I do want to mention that we have the two fire chiefs, the fire chief for River Delta, Paul Catino, is available, and I believe the fire chief for Scott Goodwin, who is the chief with City of Rio Vista, Delta Fire Protection District, by contract since the 90s, has used the services of Rio Vista Fire Department. So their fire chief is here to speak on their behalf, it's my understanding. There also may be some members of the public after the commission is happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Budge?
Yeah, Mr.
Unmute.
Chair. So Don, the action tonight is to simply consider reversing the resolution, the initial resolution. So, okay,
Yes,
so
well, I think to be clear, what's before your commission is the determination of the merits of the request for reconsideration. Is this new information that wasn't available for your May 5th deliberation? And if it is new information that may have influenced the deliberations of the commission, that would warrant a setting aside of your action on May 5th in the judgment of your commission.
okay, so so the motion tonight could include both actions, a finding that this is new information that merits reconsideration and therefore set aside the initial resolution. And I see Deanne agreeing with that. Okay, so
Yes.
that
So the matter would be to consider and potential to rescind the prior resolution or take no action to allow the prior resolution to stand, which means we affirm the reorganization, or to rescind that and the prior reorganization. So you're not approving it.
okay, so the follow-on question then, if we rescind the action, then do we then wait for the two districts to come to a mutual agreement that benefits everybody and bring that request back to LAFCo for the exchange of parcels again?
Correct. This project would be set aside. A new project, a new application would be necessary. If there is a waiting period, I'd have to double check. Deanne, I believe it may be a cooling off period. At that time, if the two boards adopt the resolutions yet one more time, substantially similar, a new application is need to be open and the process would begin again.
Okay, and one would assume then that they have to come to an agreement on the whether or not to stay in the MTZA or not.
That seems to be the gist of it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Do either of the chiefs want to make any comments?
So I
I'm
suggest,
chief. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I suggest the
okay.
reconsideration request was brought by River Delta a district. So maybe perhaps they could make the request as to the grounds for the reconsideration, because that's what's before you, whether that reconsideration is proper and then whether you're going to take action related to that request.
Okay, that sounds good.
Go ahead, Paul.
Good evening, LAFCo Commission and Mr. Lockhart. My name is Paul Catino. I'm the fire chief for River Delta Fire District. And I don't think I could have said it any better, Chief. Mr. Lockhart had pretty much hit all the points that I would have hit. Had River Delta District known that that Delta District Board was going to terminate the mutual aid threat zone agreement, we would have not pursued a partial swap. River Delta, what's important to River Delta is that we provide rapid response to the motoring public and public safety on Highway 12. And I'll just keep it that short unless any commission members have any questions for me.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Jones, and I have a question, comments on this. I'm inclined to support a reconsideration because it's interesting that some of the discussion with the letters and communications we've had seems to claim that mutual aid would suffice for this response situation that's occurring here. And with my background in the fire service, I would really want our commission to delineate between there's ideas such as boundary draw, automatic aid, and mutual aid. And those are very different things. Those are very different ways for emergency equipment and personnel to respond. Mutual aid, as proposed, okay, this idea of mutual threat area seems to be a de facto automatic aid. Is that the case, Chief Coutinho?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones, but the first part of your question cut out. So can you repeat?
Sure. Chief, isn't this mutual threat response area, it de facto, isn't that really just an automatic aid agreement?
Yes, and the reason why the automatic aid agreement was put into place is because it allowed for a multifaceted response from two different agencies that could work together for the betterment of public safety within that area. And I know we're just focusing on 12, but River Delta Fire District is in close proximity to that area. Our response times are between, at the closest, 2 minutes, at the furthest, 4 minutes. The reason why the agreement was put in place in the first place was because Rio Vista has at least an 8 to 11 minute response time, and that's if they can get over the Rio Vista Bridge and through traffic.
Right. I cannot see any. Well, again, I'm inclined to support the reconsideration because LAFCo needs to have a discussion about service delivery here, because that is an issue that we need to be concerned with. If there's other aspects, nuances, that's fine. We can talk about it. But yeah, I'm very frustrated that the closest company is not presently, well, with this withdrawal, that the closest company will not be dispatched. That's quite, really no offense to anyone, but that's a very archaic type of approach where we have the old walled off boundaries amongst all the different fire districts and volunteers and so on. The boundary drop, the automatic aid, that's the way to best ensure public safety for responses, whether it's first aid, medical emergency types, vehicle fires, vehicle accidents, fires of all kinds. That's really the only way to go. So I don't quite understand why everyone isn't on board with ensuring the best public safety possible for all the constituents that live in that area, and including the folks on the other side of the county line. Look at our wildfires we're having, okay? Everybody helps everybody else. And that's the viewpoint that I'm coming from. If there's other nuances or something I'm missing, please let me know. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I support Commissioner Jones' perspective? Because we used to drive Highway 12 quite frequently. We kept a boat over at the marina on the McCollum River. And we all know that accidents do not divide the highway in half, even though there may be a theoretical boundary there. Accidents impact the entire highway, and everybody who's ever been out there has seen that way too often.
True.
And one other point, Mr. Chair, if I may. There is absolutely no problem with Rio Vista Dispatch and our regional dispatch center working together immediately to mutually dispatch incidences. I confirmed that with our Sacramento Regional Dispatch Center earlier this week. And that communication, that dispatch, it's already set up. It's been working. It's good. So again, I see no reason to try to put up, in a sense, artificial walls here. But if they're put up, it's to the detriment of everybody living out there.
Or do we need a motion to rescind this?
I would, excuse me, Chair Little. I just got a note. Chief Goodwin from Rio Vista is having technical difficulties. Maybe we give a few more. I sent him another link. Perhaps we can take a moment to see if he's able to join.
Okay.
Also, I believe we have a public comment on this matter. So, when the discussion is done.
Yes, actually, this is the clerk. This is Alma. I actually have Scott Goodwin on the phone. He was unable to access the meeting. So is it okay, Mr. Chairperson Little, if he made his comments?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, Scott, go ahead with your comments.
I'm here if it works.
Yes, it's working. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. They're talking still.
Right, but can you turn the meeting down because it's delayed? So you're in the meeting now and you can make your comments.
Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Scott Goodwin. I'm the chief of Rio Vista Fire Department. How are you today?
Great.
Good.
So I think we need to go over a few things that I need to explain to you what exactly is going on. This is not auto aid. There has never been an auto aid agreement since 2019 that the Delta District has signed. And so an auto aid would mean that it's an agreement established prior to an incident to provide service to another agency without having to request permission. That is not an agreement that wishes to go into. The mutual aid agreement is an agreement in which one agency requests response assistance from another agency. The requesting agency makes the request, and the requested agency bases their response on the current operational status. That's pretty simple. This mutual threat zone, this was made in error. There's no such thing as a mutual threat zone for traffic accidents. A mutual threat zone is defined as an agreement where adjoining agencies agree to acknowledge that each may have an incident with a pre-designated zone in their jurisdiction that poses a threat to the adjoining jurisdiction. The agencies agree that when this occurs, the jurisdiction being threatened has the right to mount a coordinated response and enter into a unified command. This is not the case which is happening on the 12 freeway in this zone. What is happening in this zone is that we are having incidents that occur where one agency who is responsible and for a certain level of service that the Delta District is paying for with advanced life support and modern equipment and trained firefighters that are journeyman status, that they are paying for that, and that is what they're hoping for. They are not expecting for a agency that has young individuals who are learning how to train. Now, where this is important on Highway 12 is that we don't need more iron. 20 to 25% of all fire fatalities occur on highway. And so if we are on highway with more fire apparatus, that puts more people at risk. And that's through the National Fallen Firefighters Association. So where we're at right now is that we have an agreement, an out-of-area agreement. This mutual threat zone out-of-area agreement is irrelevant because it's not concerning wildland fires. We have had several incidents where we've needed assistance, where we've responded into the Delta District. We arrive on scene, and we noticed that we don't have enough resources, and so we call for more help. There was one occasion on August 2nd, 2020, where a River Delta responded into the Delta District. It was a five victim accident, 3 fatalities, and the River Delta resources called for a Suisun City truck. And there was a truck and paramedics sitting in the fire station in Rio Vista. Suisun City truck would have to pass by the Rio Vista fire station, get to the incident. That is not what professional firefighters do. That is not what is best for the community. It has to do with the professionalism of the organization that the Delta District is providing and that they want, and they're paying for it. That is the big issue that we're dealing with here, not the fact that that is a boundary drop or any of that stuff. If we had qualified people that could operate safely, we would appreciate the help, but we only want the help if we ask for it, not when they decide that they want to go and then call some other agency that has a 3-minute response time lower than ours. A couple of things that Chief Cucino was incorrect on. Response time is less than 6 minutes to the area that we're talking about, and we're expecting like resources, not different resources, and the River Delta does not provide like resources to Rio Vista.
Chair Little, if I could just make a comment. This discussion has value. The point of your meeting this evening is if information of this type was presented with the applications, it could have been considered by your commission, yay or nay in your decision making. For it to be introduced at this point is not appropriate to the reconsideration hearing.
Okay. I just wanted to make those points, and this occurred prior to my arriving here. I've only been here for about 3 months, and this mutual threat zone would have been canceled either way with me as the fire chief. Not an appropriate use of the term. The term should be a mutual aid agreement where one agency requests for another. There is no desire to enter into an auto aid agreement, and so I would predict that there will not be a mutual threat zone agreement come to, because the Delta District does not desire the River Delta Fire Authority people to respond to calls within their district. They don't have the qualifications that they desire.
Do we have any other comments? Commissioner Jones?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm not sure whether to direct this. Part of this goes to Don and Deanne. If I thought the whole point of reconsideration was that new information was coming forward, and that would a reconsideration would allow us to evaluate that new information. Could you please clarify a bit more?
Chair Little, this is Deanne. I can provide a response to Commissioner Jones' question and then maybe add an additional item. The first determination is whether or not the reconsideration request is valid and appropriate. And one of the reasons to reconsider a matter is because it's new or different information has been presented that wasn't otherwise available at the time of the original decision. So Commissioner Jones is correct. In order to reconsider it in the first place, you need to make that determination. Staff recommends that due to the findings in the original approval that stated that there was a mutual threat agreement, or there was an agreement, and that both agencies supported the reorganization, there has been changed circumstance now. And then on that, this involves an annexation and an attachment involving 2 districts. When the initial application is submitted, if one of those districts objects, then the application dies. And I've been looking for the code section to get the specific code section and the requirement, but because it involves a special district, The concept is you can't force the special district to agree to the annexation or detachment. It needs to be something that they're in favor of. So as we sit here today, one of the districts is no longer in favor of the detachment and annexation. So that is something that the commission can consider regarding the underlining request. That, you know, whether or not the facts get sorted out and they reach an agreement regarding the underlining mutual aid agreement, mutual threat agreement, or that, we do have one of the districts before us today that no longer supports it for, you know, for whatever reason. And that's what we have presented today on that request.
Thank you.
So, I don't know if that was helpful.
Don, do you have anything further to add to that?
I think that's fundamental. I think, well, Dan was referring to district termination, section 56857, which essentially does, as stated by council, the commission is not in a position to impose upon its district against its will. And we went from a mutually joined idea with two substantially similar resolutions going forward to now you have one district withdrawing their support under that code section cited. It's not that the discretion of the commission has to honor that request, but that's a separate and distinct from the reconsideration. I want to try to stay focused on, is there new material before the commission this evening that you didn't know before? And then how does that influence your next decision? That's where I think Deanne was referring to. First, the determination is the lend determine value of what's being, what points have been raised since your May 5th decision, and then go forward from there.
And if the
excuse me, Dan, what I would really suggest to the commission is this would not be an appropriate time to get in a back-to-back conversation between districts of who has better trucks and nicer vehicles. I think that right now we want to see the merits of the process. The process is very clear that if you have information that would influence the commission, it should be shared. And the timing of this proposal, excuse me, of the action of the one board after your commission creates a different certain light for consideration of what the applications were really intending to do.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would move that we make the finding that the new information that is coming before us is significant and that we approve the reconsideration of the previous motion.
I'll second that.
All right.
Before we vote, we have a member of the public wanting to make a public comment. Alma, is he still there?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, so if we could, you know, listen to our public person.
Mr. Rosenthal?
Hello, my name is 40-year enforcement veteran, currently retired, chief of police and police captain. I have a vessel that I keep at Owl Harbor, and I'm very concerned over this information and the fact that this agreement, to me, appears to concern public safety, not only in health and welfare, but in property value and property safety also. Seems to be a jurisdictional issue that's being led instead of what is the best for the public safety that exists there. And the people are expecting response. When I have a fire station that's a mile and a half away, a 4-minute response time, versus Rio Vista Fire that has a choke point at the bridge that could be knocked out at any time, much less the common openings for ship and vessel traffic that extends its response time to that area. I'm very concerned and a life safety issue through that. And it makes sense to me, while I understand what the fire chief from Rio Vista was saying in regards to mutual aid and auto aid seems more appropriate to the situation based on the logistics of the fire districts, their stations, and their availability of response time. Additionally, the discussion of equipment, if it's so bad for River Delta equipment, then there are a whole lot of people that are in jeopardy, if he believes that to be true, that are within River Delta's fire protection response time. And I don't believe that to be true. So I just wanted to voice my concern in regards to the public welfare in regards to this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And that's the only public comment that we had. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Will the clerk, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have a question of
Yes.
Procedure here. If we we do this vote and we vote for reconsideration, what happens in the interim on the ground out there?
Nothing changed.
Okay, but as of May 17th, something changed in that the closest unit is not being dispatched. Am I incorrect with that statement?
Well, if I could to respond to Commissioner Jones, the decision tonight to say there's new material, that's the reconsideration. The merit and the action, and keep in mind that the mutual threat zone agreement was arrived at between the two districts, bilaterally between the two of them. It's not a LAFCo instrument. It's a private party agreement. So the action by the Delta Fire Protection Board to rescind their participation, which is provided for in the agreement, that would be up to that district to rescind their own resolution of exit, which may or may not occur. It's not something that the commission has the authority to direct. That's one of the comments that was provided in the letter of reconsideration request by River Delta is perhaps to revisit the terms and conditions of the resolution. They provided some language that for consideration of your commission, it's in the executive officer's report. However, and Deanna, I definitely defer to your expertise here. The action to set aside your decision previously from May 5th is a final action on that decision.
So, Chair Little, I was going to clarify on the motion that the staff's recommendation is to grant the reconsideration and rescind the prior approval. So the action will be that the reorganization that was approved on in May has been rescinded, and essentially with tonight's resolution, that's denied that prior reorganization. So I believe that that's staff's recommendation and intent that that prior, reorganization, changing those couple parcels would not move forward and not be approved.
And I think that's what we all understand. All right. Well, will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Budge.
Yes.
Desmond.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
Liebig.
Aye.
Little.
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor, motion passed.
Okay. We'll now move down to the items 7 and 8.
Chair Little,
yes.
If we could, for the benefit of the public, make clear that the agendized closed session has been canceled.
Thank you. Yes.
And so the commission can move to the next item, which is, as you said, number 7.
All right. And first off, thank you to the fire chiefs for their participation tonight. All right. So executive officer appointment. Deanne, do you want to mention anything here or start off?
Sure, I can provide an oral staff report. As the commission knows, the existing executive officer, Don Lockhart, is scheduled to retire at the end of July. and the commission embarked on a recruitment process beginning in March, and with the assistance of an ad hoc committee of Chair Little and Commissioners Jones and Desmond, we worked with the County of Sacramento that assists with employee matters for the LAFCo, worked on a recruitment, and that recruitment closed at the end of April. The committee evaluated and interviewed the top candidates based upon that application period. And I'm pleased to announce and recommend that the committee and the commission is proposing to appoint Jose Henriquez this evening as the new executive officer for Sacramento LAFCo upon the retirement of Don Lockhart. And with that executive officer appointment, I am required to kind of orally summarize his compensation. And then I also would like to explain the relationship with the county and request that we have a renewed, updated agreement with the county. So it is recommended that Mr. Henriquez is employed for approximately $138,000 salary with all county benefits being provided. In addition, Mr. Henriquez would receive 3 weeks of administrative management leave each year, a $250 a month automobile allowance, and a $100 a month technology allowance, which is consistent with the current executive officer's monthly allowances. It is also recommended that the county and LAFCo approve an updated staffing services agreement. When LAFCo became a truly independent agency in 2001 from the county, there was an agreement that the county would assist with providing employee-related support, in that the employees at that time would be directed by LAFCo, and LAFCo would reimburse the county for those costs. And that was entered into in 2001. At the time, the commission clerk and the commission executive officer were county employees, and the agreement was entered into. Currently, the commission clerk remains a county employee that is assigned exclusively to LAFCo, and LAFCo directs that employee and reimburses the county for costs. Mr. Lockhart came to the commission as a historical city employee, and his current arrangement is the same arrangement with the city. So with the new executive officer and with the recruitment, is proposal that the executive officer will use the support of the county for that services. And the agreement before you tonight for approval is to update the 2001 agreement under the same terms and conditions. It specifically provides that the county employees will be assigned to LAFCo exclusively by the county, that LAFCo directs those employees exclusively, and the county is reimbursed from LAFCo for any of those associated costs. So with that, I make the recommendation to formally appoint Jose Henriquez as the new executive officer pursuant to the county staffing services agreement, and for the commission to approve the revised, updated staffing services agreement with the county. The intent is for Mr. Henriquez to start his employment with the agency the week of July 19th, and that Mr. Lockhart is scheduled for retirement on July 21st. I can answer any questions, respond to anything, and I'm very excited for the recommendation and the appointment.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Well, I will. We have a motion. I'll make the motion then that we approve the appointment of Jose Henriquez as the new LAFCo executive officer, and the services agreement with the county, the staffing services agreement with the county as well.
Mm-hmm. And I will be glad to second that motion by Chairperson Little.
Thank you. We have any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Fudge,
Yes.
Desmond,
Enthusiastic aye.
Frost,
Aye.
Liebig,
Aye.
and Commissioner Little.
Aye, aye.
Thank you. Motion passed. All in favor.
Wonderful. Thank you and congratulations, Jose. And would you like to, you've spoken to a couple of us, but would you like to say a few words here?
I'd be delighted to, Chair Little. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Jose Enriquez. Thank you so much for your support and approval of the contract. I look forward to starting my work with you in a few weeks. I'm a longtime resident of Sacramento County. In my nomadic life, this is the place where I lived the longest, and Folsom being the area within Sacramento County that I've lived in the longest. And wanted to just indicate that my first priority will be to kind of absorb as much as I can from Don during that week of overlap in which he's in the office and I'm in the office. And then I would like to schedule some time to meet with each and every one of you to get to know each other a little bit better and to kind of identify some of the priorities that you'd like to work on for the coming year. And then I would like to have that conversation as well with the full commission so that we can kind of determine what our priorities are going to be both in the short term and in the long term. This is a wonderful opportunity. I thank you once again for your trust and your confidence. And I look forward to many conversations in the coming months and years.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Frost.
I just wanted to welcome Jose and tell you I'm looking forward to working with you and congratulate you on the position. I believe it's been a tremendous pleasure to work with Don Lockhart, so it's a hard act to follow. Sorry to have to tell you that. But we're excited to have you, and I'll look forward to our future LAFCo endeavors with you. Welcome.
I thank you, Commissioner Frost. I do realize that I have big shoes to fill. I look forward to the challenge, and hopefully, by the time I retire, you'll be saying kind words about me.
No doubt.
Soon.
Commissioner Desmond.
Thank you, Chair Little. I want to echo what Commissioner Frost said, and Jose, welcome. I was delighted to be on the panel. And two things that really struck me during the interview is, number one, it sounds like you're very good at helping educate commissioners about the process, and I will certainly be taking advantage of that. And number two is your problem-solving skills, which will certainly, seems like they'll be on display rather quickly with respect to a couple of fire districts down in the Delta. So welcome aboard, and I'm very, very happy to have you and look forward to getting to know you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you. As we extend a welcoming hand to Jose, I would also like to acknowledge the years of service, both as assistant executive director and executive director of Mr. Don Lockhart. Don, your vast knowledge, depth, years of experience with LAFCo issues, governance, both challenges, solutions, we have been well served by your professionalism and attentiveness to good governance. So with the open handshake and welcome to Jose, also the handshake and best wishes for the future to Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. And when we get past this, then we can focus a little on Don as well. So, well, if there aren't any further comments, will the clerk please call the roll?
Call the roll. I think we called the roll already. Did we not?
I think we approved the resolution already, and then we were all, yeah.
So
I'm so excited.
Excuse me,
Thank
point of information, Madam Clerk. My understanding is there is a public member who wanted to call in and make some comments, all positive and supportive here.
Alma,
Do you?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have?
Yes, I do. Let me.
Or. Yes, it's in process.
Not Don's wife, is it?
No, it's a very nice professional. I would anticipate a very nice professional comment. The person called in to leave the information for a callback because she wants to make comments, and it's all good. We can just hang in there for the technology.
Thank you. Okay, I have Pamela on the line, and she is going to start the public comment. Go ahead, Pamela.
Thank you, Chair Little and members of the Commission. My name is Pamela Miller, and I am the Executive Director with the State Association of LAFCos, otherwise known as LAFCo. And it's been a pleasure for me to observe your meeting tonight. Of a surprise to me that this is Don's last meeting with the Commission. First of all, congratulations, Jose. Don, I just want to share with you that it really has been a privilege for me to work with you over the past 9 years. You've done amazing work with the LAFCo there, and always a great representative of Sacramento LAFCo. Always very willing to share your knowledge and expertise with your fellow executive officers. And every time I picked up the phone or took a walk to your office, always had an open door for me. You never once said no. I really appreciate you responding when I literally begged you and Peter to host the 2019 annual conference, or excuse me, the 2015 annual conference. It was really a lot of fun to work with you, and you will be missed. I look forward to hearing all about the wonderful things that you're doing in your retirement, and to having an opportunity to go have some lunch somewhere. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for all of the years of work that you did with Sacramento LAFCo. Thank you. You are also if I'm not mistaken, a LAFCo Deputy Executive Officer for a brief period of time. Thank you for your dedicated service to LAFCo as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you for participating in the meeting and for those kind words for Don. I too have something I'd like to read, a resolution that we'll take up officially at our next LAFCo meeting, but acknowledging and honoring the dedicated public support of Executive Officer Donald J. Lockhart to the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission. Whereas Donald J. Lockhart has served the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission since 2002 with distinction in various capacities, beginning with Assistant Executive Officer, and was appointed as Executive Officer to the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission in May of 2017 through July 2021. And whereas Donald J. Lockhart represented the interests of all citizens, public agencies, interested parties, and environmental interests, as well as affected agencies within the County of Sacramento as the Executive Officer of the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission. He has participated with keen insight, constant vigilance, impeccable integrity, resolute fortitude, and great enthusiasm. And whereas Donald J. Lockhart has served with honor, fairness, respect, diligence, scrutiny, and perseverance, Donald J. Lockhart navigated with skill and professionalism numerous annexations, spheres of influence, conducting authority proceedings, and kept the Commission informed and well represented in all endeavors. He has been pleasant and wonderful to work with, and will be sorely missed as the executive officer of the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission. And we will take that resolution up officially at our next meeting. I also want to say personally that I want to thank him personally and publicly, obviously, for the years of service to LAFCo. His deliberate, thoughtful process served the commission and the county well through all of the municipal service reviews and annexations and urban service boundary expansions and adjustments. And Don was just really helpful for me when I joined the commission and over the years. And I've appreciated his openness and transparency in the discharge of his duties. And I thank you and wish you all the best in the future, Don Lockhart.
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments, or I think we ready to wrap this up?
Yes.
All right, then. We have no further items. And the meeting is adjourned at 6:39. Thank you all, and hopefully we'll see you all live and in person in the chambers next month. Thank you for a good meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you.